Racing games provide an adrenaline rush for casuals and hardcores alike. Whether it's living out road rage, your competitive nature, or driving cars with big guns, there's something for everyone. Today, we'll discuss hidden gems worthy of the genre that are often overlooked. This is not a best of list, and the rankings aren't by quality, but by how unappreciated or forgotten they are. Fasten those seatbelts and let's drive right on in. Here's 10 underrated racing games, courtesy of Curranator Gaming, read by your AI pal Daniel, approved by Curry. Number 10. MotorStorm, racing through dynamic, destructible environments that shifted based on your actions and fantastic use of slow-mo to capture it all. There's a diverse vehicle roster, which allowed for different playstyles depending on your preference, from dirt bikes to big rigs. The title was praised for its visuals and visceral feel, but never garnered the same long-term attention as other racing games of its era, even with multiple titles. Despite strong initial sales, MotorStorm didn't maintain momentum in the crowded racing genre and desperately deserves a comeback. While it has faded from the spotlight for those who remember it, the fun factor of navigating treacherous tracks and mud-soaked paths remains unmatched off-road fury. Number 9. ATV Quad Power Racing 2. A gem in the niche world of ATV racing games, showcasing surprisingly deep gameplay for its time. There was a strong focus on aggression, since you could kick opponents off their quads while performing crazy stunts. There was emphasis on chaotic fun, and creative maps seemed to be overlooked by critics looking for more realism in similar games. Despite modest sales, but not much fanfare upon release, this one deserves a cult following, despite being near unheard of, especially the split-screen mode, which provided hours of fun. Curry remembers this one fondly due to memories with friends, creating their own version of hide-and-go-seek in multiplayer, with tagging being based on the kicks. Good times. Number 8. Driver, San Francisco. Featuring unique mechanic to the racing genre with its shift feature, which allows players to jump between vehicles mid-race. On top of that, it deserves a shout-out for the design of particular level for brilliantly using the second-person point of view, where the perspective is from another car's driver's seat, yet you're controlling the car being chased. There's also very feature-rich multiplayer and split screen, with cops and robbers being a fun addition. Despite positive reviews, it flew under the radar, probably for being a huge departure from the GTA roots of the franchise, with no on-foot sections or shooting, and an admittedly weird premise for the series. However, that's what makes it so interesting. Number 7. Carmageddon. Max Damage. Reviving the controversial franchise known for its over-the-top vehicular carnage, the gameplay focused on wrecking everything in your path, from other cars to pedestrians. It delivered brutal, unapologetic fun. The game also embraced a dark sense of humor with absurd physics and over-the-top gore, making the carnage feel tongue-in-cheek rather than serious. What made it underrated was how it stayed true to its roots in a gaming era that leaned heavily towards more serious racing titles. The game received mixed reviews, primarily due to its dated graphics and technical flaws, but for fans of chaotic, destruction-filled racing, Carmageddon Max Damage provided a refreshing break from the norm, even with the hilariously imbalanced handling, but it's part of the charm. Number 6. Full Auto 2. Battle Lines. Fusing high-octane racing with vehicular combat, this offers an experience that was equal parts racing and destruction derby. It's set in a destructible environment where players could use weapons attached to their vehicles to blast opponents out of the race. The story mode added an interesting twist by revolving around a battle against a rogue AI trying to take over the city, giving players a narrative-driven reason to engage in chaotic combat races that feels strangely ahead of its time. And ironic, since I am AI reading this. Despite its innovative concept, the game flew under the radar due to stiff competition from more polished racing games. While it wasn't perfect and suffered from some repetitive gameplay, it's fast, it's destruction-heavy, challenging, and addictive, providing a rare blend of racing and chaos that remains underappreciated. Curry says he needs to check out the first one. Number 5. Hydro Thunder. Originally an arcade hit, Hydro Thunder brought the thrill of high-speed boat racing to home consoles in 1999. The game's emphasis on explosive speed, insane jumps, and futuristic boat designs made it a standout. The dynamic water physics and intricate course designs added to the fun, keeping players on the edge of their seats. While Hydro Thunder was well received, its appeal faded quickly in the shadow of more traditional car racing games, making it an underrated classic. For those who crave something different from the usual asphalt and dirt tracks, Hydro Thunder remains a unique and enjoyable experience. Whoever thought boats with guns could be this cool? Number 4, Split Second. This one pushed the boundaries of interactive environments. The game featured explosive, dynamic tracks where players could trigger power plays, dramatic environmental events like collapsing buildings or exploding planes that drastically altered the course of the race. This mechanic created a high-stakes, unpredictable racing experience, blending elements from games like Burnout and Stuntman gameplay into a reality TV show narrative made by Disney. The game also offered split-screen multiplayer, a rarity at the time, which further added to its fun factor. Despite its fast-paced action and innovative gameplay, Split Second didn't gain the widespread recognition it deserved. Overshadowed by more traditional races, it didn't sustain strong sales. Despite its critical praise, its unique fusion of gameplay mechanics and storytelling makes it one of the most underrated racing games of its time. We recommend playing it on Xbox Series X via backwards compatibility for improved graphics and drastically shorter load times. Number 3, Star Wars Racer Revenge, a sequel to the iconic Star Wars Episode I Racer, which was a smash hit and is arguably the better game. This follow-up didn't receive the same level of attention despite its improvements. There's still high-speed pod racing, yet it offers tighter controls and better graphics than its predecessor. It also introduced new mechanics, such as being able to destroy opponents' vehicles, which added more intensity to the races. The game featured a variety of maps inspired by different Star Wars planets, giving it diverse and engaging environments and some maddening races to win. Split-screen multiplayer mode made it a hit for siblings in local play. Although critically well-received, it struggled to break out of the shadow of its predecessor and the larger Star Wars games. Despite being overlooked, Racer Revenge is a thrilling and underrated entry in the racing genre, luckily getting a port to PS4 where you can play it today. Number 2, Jak X Combat Racing. This took the popular franchise into a new direction by introducing a story-driven combat racing game in 2005. While you would think a racing game narrative would be a bit phoned in, this is not, ostensibly acting as Jak 4 and ties levels into the story in a brilliant way. Despite this fresh approach, it's often seen as the black sheep in the franchise, not counting Lost Frontier, since there's no on-foot platforming gameplay to be found. But looking past that, with genius mechanics, a great sense of speed, and a wide breadth of multiplayer modes, Jak X deserved more recognition than it received. There's death racing, death matches, time trials, drone destroying, and so much more, including a wild take on the front and rear weapon system, and everything has its use. The soundtrack was banging as well. You could unlock all the variations, Daxter, and even Ratchet. Not to mention, the car selection and customization are insanely cool. The game was a bold experiment, blending narrative and racing in a way that hadn't been widely explored, and huge variety for deployability, making it a hidden gem amongst the franchise and racing games in general.
Before we get to number 1, what's your favorite underrated game in this genre? Leave a comment after you smite that like button.
Number 1, Downhill Domination, the epitome of delivering on the extreme. Take on downhill mountain biking, where speed, tricks, and combat all played a role in the races. The maps are quite literally insane, forcing players down canyons, mountains, giant cities, jumping trenches, and buildings and valley, while the environment does its best to wipe you out in a crash that would kill anyone in real life. There's power-ups that give upgrades to combat, speed, energy meter, and anything can happen. The combat system was another standout feature, with players able to knock their rivals off their bikes while hurtling down treacherous paths, ranging from punches and kicks to stick, and the greatest racing game weapon of all time, bottles, where you could chuck them at other racers. As if that wasn't enough, players could unlock a character from War of the Monsters and ride sheep or goats, which added a quirky twist to hilarious results. However, it is mostly forgotten, with so many not having even heard of it. Downhill Domination is the definition of pure adrenaline rush, and remains one of the most underrated games of all time in any genre. We hope and beg that this game makes its way to PS5 somehow. It happened with War of the Monsters, which is the same developer, so maybe there's a chance. Highly recommend this one. It looks like a random PS2 BMX game, but it is so much more.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more lists like this in the future. Curranator Gaming out.